Deep in the heart of Nevada's desert, beneath layers of reinforced concrete and steel, humanity's most ambitious message was taking shape. The year was 2047, and after decades of searching the cosmos for extraterrestrial life, we had finally decided to do something different. We would make them find us. I remember that day clearly, standing in the control room of Project Beacon, my coffee growing cold as I watched the massive quantum arrays power up. The gentle hum of machinery filled the air, a sound that had become as familiar to me as my own heartbeat over the past 5 years. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, yet heavy with the weight of what we were about to do. "Signal strength at 90%, called out Dr. Chen from her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. "Quantum entanglement stable." Our team had spent years perfecting this technology, pushing the boundaries of physics to create something unprecedented, a message that would ripple across space-time itself. The message was simple yet profound. We see you. We know you're out there. And we're ready. It wasn't just empty words. It was backed by everything humanity had achieved. We included proof of our quantum technology, our understanding of dark matter manipulation, and our mastery of fusion energy. But more importantly, we included our history, our wars, our triumphs, our near extinctions, and our recoveries. General Thompson stood beside me, her weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the monitors. "Are we sure about this?" she asked, not for the first time. "Once we send this out, there's no taking it back." The question hung in the air, heavy with implications. We had debated this moment for months in countless closed-door meetings. Some argued we were painting a target on Earth. Others believed we were finally taking our rightful place among the stars. But the truth was, we were tired of waiting. Humanity had grown up. We had unified under the Global Space Initiative, turned our swords into plowshares, and then turned those plowshares into starships. "We're sure," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "It's time they knew that we're not just some primitive species stumbling in the dark. We've earned our place at the cosmic table." The room fell silent as the final preparations were made. 50 years ago, we were still debating if aliens existed. Now, our quantum telescopes had detected thousands of artificial structures across the galaxy. We knew they were watching. The question was, why hadn't they contacted us? "All systems go," Dr. Chen announced. "Quantum beacon primed and ready for transmission." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of 7 billion souls behind this decision. This wasn't just a message. It was a declaration. Humanity was done playing hide and seek among the stars. "Initialize the sequence," I commanded, placing my palm on the biometric scanner. General Thompson did the same, followed by Dr. Chen. 3 keys to unlock humanity's boldest statement. The quantum arrays began to pulse with an otherworldly light, building to a crescendo that made the air itself seem to vibrate. On the main screen, the message began its journey, riding waves of entangled particles across the cosmic void. And then, just as the transmission reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The quantum arrays suddenly surged with energy, far beyond their programmed parameters. Every screen in the control room lit up with data we had never seen before. "Sir," Dr. Chen's voice cracked with disbelief, "something's responding." The control room erupted into controlled chaos. Warning lights flashed across every console as the quantum arrays continued to pulse with unprecedented power. My heart raced as I watched the energy readings climb beyond anything we had ever theorized possible. "Shut it down," General Thompson ordered, her military training evident in her calm demeanor. But Dr. Chen's fingers flew across her console, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. "I can't," she responded, her voice barely above a whisper. "The system, it's not accepting any commands. Whatever's happening, it's beyond our control now." The quantum arrays had become a bridge, and something was crossing it. Through the observation window, we watched as the massive machinery began to emit a soft, pulsing light that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around it. The air shimmered like a desert mirage, and for a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw shadows moving within the light, impossible geometries that made my eyes hurt. "We're receiving data," announced one of our younger scientists, his voice cracking with excitement. It's structured. Definitely not random noise. The main screen filled with cascading symbols. Not quite mathematics, not quite language, but something in between. Dr. Chen's hands moved with practiced precision as she directed our AI systems to begin decoding the transmission. This isn't just a response, she muttered, more to herself than to us. It's an invitation. No, more like instructions. The room temperature dropped several degrees, and I felt the hair on the back of my neck stand up. We had prepared for every possible scenario, or so we thought. Hostile responses, peaceful greetings, even complete silence. But this felt different. "They've been waiting," General Thompson said softly, voicing what we were all thinking. "They weren't ignoring us. They were testing us, waiting to see if we'd figure out how to reach them on our own." The data continued to pour in, and with each passing moment, our understanding grew. The symbols were revealing themselves to be a complex set of specifications, blueprints for something that defied our current understanding of physics. "Look at this," Dr. Chen called out, highlighting a particular sequence. "These patterns, they're similar to our quantum entanglement theories, but they're operating on a scale we never imagined possible. They're showing us how to build something." I stepped closer to the screen, my coffee cup long forgotten on a nearby console. The implications were staggering. This wasn't just first contact. It was first instruction. Some distant civilization had just handed us the keys to what exactly? "Sir," one of our security officers interrupted my thoughts. "We're picking up similar energy signatures from other facilities around the world. Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, London. They're all reporting the same phenomenon." The realization hit me like a physical force. Our message hadn't just been received. It had been anticipated. Whoever or whatever was out there had used our own transmission as a catalyst to activate something on a global scale. General Thompson's phone buzzed. A direct line to the Global Security Council. She answered it, listened for a moment, then turned to address the room. "The President is calling an emergency session. All major world leaders are being contacted. Whatever's happening, it's bigger than any one nation." As if in response to her words, the quantum arrays pulsed once more, and new data began streaming across our screens. But this time, the message was crystal clear, displayed in plain text across every monitor in the facility. "Humanity has reached the threshold. Phase 1 initiated. Prepare for integration." The word integration hung in the air like a physical presence, leaving us all to wonder, what exactly had we just set in motion? The next 48 hours were a blur of emergency meetings, data analysis, and global coordination unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. The world's leading scientists, military strategists, and government officials had been connected through a hastily established quantum network, all trying to make sense of what was unfolding. I hadn't slept, surviving on black coffee and adrenaline as we worked to decode the continuous stream of information flooding our systems. The integration message had been just the beginning. What followed was a complex series of instructions that seemed to be guiding us toward building something unprecedented. These specifications, Dr. Chen explained during one of our briefings, her voice hoarse from endless hours of explanation, they're showing us how to modify our quantum arrays into some sort of network nodes. It's like they want us to build a galaxy-wide internet, but it's so much more than that. The global response had been surprisingly unified. For the first time in human history, every major nation had agreed to share all their technological resources and scientific knowledge. The prospect of alien contact had done what centuries of diplomacy couldn't. It had united Earth. But not everyone was convinced this was a good thing. During a tense video conference with the Global Security Council, General Thompson voiced what many were thinking. What if this is a trap? We're following their instructions without knowing their true intentions. For all we know, we could be building our own cage. The debate was cut short by an unexpected development. Our modified quantum arrays had started picking up signals from deep space, thousands of them. Each signal corresponded to a different civilization, all connected through this vast network we were being invited to join. It's like finding out you've been living in a small village your whole life. I remember telling the council, only to suddenly discover there's been a thriving metropolis just over the horizon, waiting for you to develop enough to see it. But the real shock came when we decoded some of the alien transmissions. They weren't just random communications. They were warnings, urgent ones. Something was coming, something that made these advanced civilizations nervous enough to accelerate our integration process. The quantum arrays began pulsing with increased intensity, and our screens filled with new data. Dr. Chen's face went pale as she translated the incoming message. They're saying we don't have much time. Whatever we're preparing for, it's approaching faster than expected. Satellite stations around the world reported unusual gravitational disturbances. The moon's orbit shifted by a fraction of a degree, barely noticeable to most, but enough to send astronomers into a frenzy of calculations and predictions. We need to make a decision, General Thompson announced, her voice cutting through the tension in the control room. Either we complete this integration process now, joining whatever galactic community is out there, or we shut it all down and face whatever's coming alone. Before anyone could respond, every screen in the facility suddenly went dark. When they came back online, a single message appeared, this time accompanied by what looked like a countdown. Integration window closing. Choose now. Time remaining, 60 minutes. The room fell silent except for the steady beeping of the countdown timer. 60 minutes to make the biggest decision in human history. 60 minutes to either embrace our place among the stars or remain isolated on our tiny blue planet. And that's when our deep space telescopes detected it. A massive object, unlike anything we'd ever seen, emerging from what appeared to be a tear in space itself. It was heading straight for Earth. Time seemed to freeze as we watched the massive object approach through our quantum-enhanced telescopes. But what happened next defied all our expectations. The object wasn't single. It was fragmenting, splitting into thousands of smaller entities, each one radiating energy signatures that made our most advanced technology look primitive in comparison. We've got incoming transmissions, Dr. Chen announced, her fingers flying across the holographic interface. But these are different. They're not from the network. Her voice trembled as she processed the data. They're claiming to be us, from a different timeline. The control room erupted in confusion. On our main screen, a message appeared in perfect English. Do not complete the integration. We are you 6 months from now. The network is not what you think it is. General Thompson immediately ordered a full authentication protocol. How can we verify this? She demanded, her usual composure showing cracks of uncertainty. The response came through instantly, containing classified information that only someone with intimate knowledge of Earth's defense systems could possess. The integration process, the message continued, it's not an invitation. It's a harvest. We learned this too late. In our timeline, Earth becomes nothing more than a power source for their network. Humanity becomes processed, optimized. We lose everything that makes us human. Dr. Chen's monitoring equipment suddenly registered massive energy spikes from all our quantum arrays. The alien network was pushing harder, trying to force the integration process. The countdown timer began to accelerate. 30 minutes remaining, the artificial voice announced, much sooner than it should have. They're manipulating time itself, I realized aloud, watching as our instruments struggled to make sense of the temporal distortions forming around our facility. They're trying to prevent us from receiving the warning. But our future selves had planned for this. The fragmenting object we detected wasn't a weapon. It was a fleet of temporal escape pods, carrying the last free humans from that doomed timeline. They were positioning themselves around Earth, creating a protective grid that was somehow stabilizing our time stream. Look at this, Dr. Chen called out, highlighting a new data stream. The pods are sending us technical specifications, ways to modify our quantum arrays to resist the integration process. But if we do this, she paused, studying the implications, we'll be making ourselves known to something even bigger than the network. General Thompson's secure phone buzzed again. After a brief conversation, her face turned grave. Similar warnings are being received at every major facility worldwide. The Chinese have already begun implementing the modifications. Russia and India are following suit. The room's temperature dropped further as reality itself seemed to fluctuate around us. Through the facility's windows, we could see the sky turning strange colors as two possible futures fought for dominance over our timeline. 15 minutes remaining. The network's countdown continued, its artificial voice now carrying an edge of what sounded almost like desperation. That's when we received the final transmission from our future selves, and it chilled me to my core. There's something else out there, something that even the network fears. That's why they're harvesting civilizations, not for power, but for protection. If you reject them, you'll have to face it alone, but at least you'll face it as humans. The quantum arrays began to shake, their energy readings going off the charts as two possible futures pulled at the fabric of our reality. We had to make a choice, and we had to make it now. But the choice was no longer simply about joining or rejecting the network. It was about choosing which existential threat we'd rather face and what we were willing to sacrifice to survive. Through the chaos of temporal distortions and quantum fluctuations, a third message began to form on our screens, its origin unlike anything we'd seen before. It wasn't from the network, nor from our future selves. As the message took shape, everyone in the control room held their breath. The third message materialized slowly, each word appearing like ripples in the fabric of reality. You have passed the true test. Both paths were trials. Humanity's response was monitored. Before we could process this revelation, our quantum arrays stabilized on their own, the violent energy fluctuations settling into a harmonious hum. The temporal distortions ceased, and the sky returned to its natural color. Both the network's countdown and our future selves' warning signals faded away. Dr. Chen's console lit up with new data that made her gasp. These readings, they're showing that both signals, the network and our supposed future selves, they were projections. Sophisticated ones, but projections nonetheless. General Thompson stepped forward, her tactical mind already processing the implications. It was all a test? To what end? As if in response, the mysterious third party's message continued to unfold. For millennia, we have watched civilizations face this choice. Some choose integration, surrendering their individuality for security. Others choose isolation, maintaining their freedom but remaining vulnerable. Humanity did neither. You questioned. You analyzed. You sought to understand the deeper truth. The message paused, and in that moment, we felt the weight of countless alien civilizations' attention upon us. The surveillance arrays around the world picked up movement. The fragmenting object that we thought was a fleet of temporal escape pods was reforming, taking on a new shape. Your species' greatest strength, the message continued, is not your technology, nor your unity in the face of crisis. It is your capacity to resist simple answers, to find alternatives when presented with false choices. This is what we have been searching for. The reformed object was now visible to the naked eye, a crystalline structure that seemed to bend light itself around it. It was beautiful in a way that defied human description, like looking at a four-dimensional object with three-dimensional eyes. You are now truly ready, the message proclaimed, not for integration, not for isolation, but for partnership. In that moment, everything we thought we knew about humanity's place in the cosmos shifted. We weren't being invited to join a network, nor were we being left to face cosmic horrors alone. We were being offered something far more profound, a genuine place at the galactic table. Dr. Chen's voice broke through the awe-struck silence. The quantum arrays, they're receiving new data, but it's different from anything we've seen. It's showing us how to achieve something we never even imagined possible. The crystalline structure in orbit began to pulse with a gentle light, and every quantum array on Earth resonated in harmony with it. But instead of the forced synchronization we'd feared from the network, this was more like a conversation. We offer you a choice, the final message read, not between submission and isolation, but between remaining as you are or taking your first true steps into the galaxy. Either path is acceptable. The choice must be yours. General Thompson's phone rang one last time. The Global Security Council had reached a unanimous decision, the first in human history. As she announced their response, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. We had started this journey by sending out humanity's final warning to the stars, only to discover that we had been the ones being warned all along. But the real surprise came in what happened next, as humanity made its choice and the true nature of our cosmic test was finally revealed. Because sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from choosing between two paths, but from finding a third one that nobody else had thought to look for. Humanity's choice wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of simply accepting or rejecting the offer, we proposed something unprecedented. Through the quantum arrays, we transmitted our response. We choose to learn first, then decide. The crystalline structure in orbit pulsed with what seemed like approval. Over the next few months, everything changed, yet somehow stayed the same. We weren't given advanced technology outright. Instead, we were given understanding. The quantum arrays became windows into the galaxy's history, showing us the paths other civilizations had taken. Dr. Chen led the first team of human scientists to decode these cosmic lessons. They're not just teaching us about technology, she explained during a global broadcast. They're showing us the mistakes and triumphs of countless civilizations. We're learning from the entire galaxy's experience. The fear of invasion or forced integration faded as we realized the truth. We had never been in danger. The crystalline entities, as we came to call them, were more like cosmic librarians than conquerors. They had spent billions of years collecting knowledge, waiting for civilizations mature enough to handle it responsibly. General Thompson, to everyone's surprise, became one of the strongest advocates for this gradual approach. We're not rushing in blind, she told the Global Security Council. We're maintaining our independence while expanding our understanding. This is how you build true strength. The global unity that had formed during the crisis didn't dissolve. It evolved. Countries continued sharing resources and knowledge, not out of fear, but out of shared purpose. We had glimpsed something greater than our individual nations, yet we hadn't lost what made us uniquely human. 1 year after our initial transmission, I stood in that same control room, looking at data from our now modified quantum arrays. The displays showed hundreds of other civilizations, each on their own journey of discovery. Some were ahead of us, others just beginning, but none were quite like Earth. We've received a new transmission, Dr. Chen announced one quiet evening. They say we're ready for the next phase. The message was simple. You have learned to walk. Now learn to dance among the stars. The crystalline structure that had watched over us for the past year began to change again. This time, it formed into what we would later understand was a gateway, not a physical one, but a quantum bridge to other worlds where civilizations like ours were taking their first steps into a larger universe. As I prepare to lead the first human delegation through this gateway, I can't help but reflect on how far we've come. Our final warning to the aliens hadn't been a warning at all. It had been our first step toward understanding our true place in the cosmos. We never needed to be ready and waiting for aliens. We needed to be ready and waiting for ourselves, for the moment when we would finally understand that the greatest discoveries don't come from power or fear, but from wisdom and patience. The quantum arrays still pulse with energy, but now they sing with the harmonies of 1,000 worlds. Earth has changed, yet remained uniquely itself. We didn't surrender our humanity. We enhanced it. We didn't join a network. We helped create something new. As I look out at the stars tonight, they don't seem as distant anymore. They're not just points of light. They're doorways to new understanding. And somewhere out there, another civilization is probably sending out their own final warning, about to learn the same lesson we did. Because in the end, the greatest test wasn't about choosing between two paths. It was about having the courage to forge our own. And that's exactly what humanity does best.